What's that?
Oh, that's just the go over there. All right, let's. It's trying, but we're having a lot of dropped frames. All right, maybe
Maybe.
we're live.
No. Let's see. Oh, looks like we're live.
Well, hey, we're live.
On a little bit of a delay, but yes.
All right.
All right, let
Well,
me
let's.
share this up a little bit.
Okay, I think we're good. I think you're right. So we're live. So
Live on Channel 5, baby.
all right. I don't know if we've got anybody in here yet, but probably give it a second. So NSK Central first tournament of the year. What's the thoughts?
Oh, man. To me, I think this is a better event than what was planned.
Yeah.
So you guys had to make a little veer.
We
A
did.
little audible.
Did have to make a little audible.
And I think that's going to turn out way better than what the original plan probably was. Hamilton's been getting hit a ton. Hamilton, Ouachita, from January to basically June. I mean, there's multiple tournaments
Right.
every weekend. I feel like Ouachita can handle that a little bit better. It's spread out a little bit more. I think people fish it differently. You know, I think Hamilton people kind of fish it the same for the most part. They locate brush piles and run A-rigs over them or throw jigs down them. Some people focus on
Right.
boat docks or the very backs of the creeks, and that's pretty much it. Like, there's
yeah.
not a lot of variation out there. So I think this is setting up really good. Recently there was a big boat event out there that I want to say was like 26 pounds. It took to
Right.
win, and that was at Trader Bill's tournament. And I want to say there was 3 or 4 bags all over 20 pounds. So Ouachita's made a huge comeback. The grass is back. Years ago, there was lots of grass in that lake, and then
Right.
it kind of died off for a bit, and now we're starting to see it in various parts. I know even 3 years ago, I was seeing it up near the state park, and now it's on the north end, and that really helps any body of water as far as the fishery is concerned, and starting to see some bigger fish again in Ouachita.
Right.
So, the game and fish has been dumping some Florida bass in some of those north ends of the lake. So it's interesting to see what we might see pulled out this weekend.
Yeah, it will be interesting for sure. I really hope that it turns out well. And I don't think Ouachita is going to be that busy with all those big boats on Hamilton, with that Hamilton tournament going on. I don't think you're going to have a ton of competition.
Well, the good thing is that lake's so big it can handle it.
It's true.
So, I mean, if you got
100%.
a couple folks fishing out, or if there's a aluminum outlaw man boat tournament or something going on, it's really not going to impact, I feel like, our guys for the most part. So should shape up good for folks, and lots of different ways to fish that lake. Lots of different options out there. It's, kind of a, go pick your strength and what you want to do and go out there and do it.
Yeah, I mean that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
So what's the juice?
There's lots of different options out there for this particular body of water, but this time of year, I just say everything's red. As far as your crankbaits and your rattle traps and even your chatterbaits, and I feel like that plays and will play on Ouachita this weekend. I feel like a guy could stay really busy and
Yep.
just run rocks or run some grass. You could, run some lipless, some red lipless over some grass and just burn it through there and get some bites. Me and Chris went out to Conway recently, and he had a lot of success doing that. And I kind of played copycat and did some of that as well. And then we were swimming some falcon crawl colored baits.
Yeah.
Kind of the same theory, also just keeping it moving. through there. If you look at that YouTube video, you can see on one of those casts with that lipless. I mean, I'm just burning that thing as fast
burning
as I
that
can.
lipless.
And we couldn't reel it fast enough. Like, we just could not reel it fast enough for the fish.
That is crazy.
It is. It's a crazy bite. It's a crazy pattern to get on. But I see that, being something that could play, especially around the grass. And, but also I feel like a person can stay on the move and take a rock crawler. I'll pull some of those things out.
All right, let's do that.
Let's get the old
Get the basket
out. But so rock crawler wise, something in this color would be really good around some bluff walls or just some chunk rock, around some of the old river bends, some of the creek bends, things of that nature. Secondary points that lead back in the spawning flats should be really good right now. Go back out and pull the old red eye shed out.
Right.
I really like Strike King's colors.
Right.
I feel like they make some really good patterns. This smaller one here is just a 1/4 ounce. You would be able to keep that out of the grass and still be able to, throw it up, where it's at and run it above it.
For sure.
When you're doing that, you just want to kind of tick the top of that grass. And if you feel it, kind of start to bog down, just give it a quick jerk and just keep reeling. And, hopefully you get some bites that way. So those are some cranking options. And, when we talk about folks that I feel like set up, to be able to crank well, a couple people come to mind for me.
Yeah.
David Hocutt.
Yeah.
I've seen him crank up there on Greer some, but, not to be outdone, Eric Morris will take a chatterbait and run the same as a crankbait in some of those areas and be just as successful. So those two folks, I think, set up well for some sort of cranking pattern if that's what they choose. We got some folks in the field that can definitely do that.
For sure. Yeah, I haven't checked I think there's a lot of people that are going to be game time decisions on that lake, but I mean, Matt Gifford, he was in the store earlier. He seems to, he's pretty confident. Hocutt was in the store yesterday. He seems like he stumbled onto something. A couple of other guys are, they're not as, but I mean, there's that meme going around right now about, how often does a pattern hold, the weekend before, especially given the fact that they're predicting up to 3 inches of rain.
You also got the hometown, guy there, Corey Hopper, is planting the fish.
Corey is.
Stephen Dunlap lives down there. He's planting the fish. So both of those guys know that lake well. They'll probably fare well. Larry Wisnat's won an event down there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Larry's been down there pre-fishing a whole lot.
I think Larry's down there right now.
But, he can usually figure something out on Ouachita. What's really encouraging, though, is I look at this event, and I don't feel like I used to about Ouachita. Used to, 75, 77 inches, might win a kayak event there. I don't think that's going to even be close to the case this round.
I think you're correct. We'll be post front, but I still think it's going to be good.
Yeah, and here's my thoughts on the front situation, this and that. Guys, these fish, a lot of them are moving towards getting ready to spawn. The water temperature is not going to change that much. That's too big a body of water for the temperature to change that quick.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
If you're fishing in an area that's not in the back of a spawning cove or something like that.
Right.
Now, those little flats and some of those way far back areas, it may change just because it's a little shallower in those areas, or you may have some cold water running in. That would probably be something I would avoid, would be cold, muddy water running in.
Right.
This time of year, if you feel like you stumble across something, there might be some warm water running in, well, then that might be something to get on. But generally, if we tend to continue to get rain, you can find some pockets where there's some mud lines to fish where that, mud water is hitting that lake water. Sometimes you'll find some fish stacked up there. And one of the baits I actually pulled out was kind of with that thought, is just a single, taking one of these out and making a single Kitech swim bait. And something else you can do with that is also throw this anywhere you would throw a rig. And I just would pair that up with a
Hand it over to me. I'll put it on.
underspin.
Mm-hmm.
And here's my thoughts on this.
Just that underspin.
We're early March, okay?
Right.
These fish have seen an A-rig in December, in January, and all February. What I found in January when I went to Chickamauga, a lake that gets even more pressure than, a lake like Ouachita, is anywhere that I would plan to throw that A-rig, I put it down because everyone around me, there's a lot of boats out there. I went out there twice in January, just kind of, filling my way around before the Bassmaster Classic for kayaks that's going to be out there. Everywhere I looked, everybody's throwing an A-rig. So I put it down, put one of those on, and threw it everywhere I would on 6-pound line on an ultralight and started catching fish. So I feel like it's just a little something different, something that they don't see as much. That could be utilized in some of those same areas that you would normally have a lot of success with an A-rig.
Yeah, I think, you said it a couple of weeks ago. We were talking that, that A-rig might just be a little bit played out. Because I know you throw an A-rig all the time.
Yeah,
you used to.
Especially this time of year. I mean, they've just seen it so much.
Right.
At this point. So, and I'm not saying, someone may not go out there and wreck them. And they might. And, from what I understand, some of the folks on the Trader Bills, circuit, they caught some of their fish that way. But, that's just my opinion on it. When you get this far into the year, those fish have seen this so many times.
Especially on a place that's so
gets a lot of
so pressure.
Yeah.
That being said, there's those fish have been pressured, but so let me get my thoughts straight here. So they are starting to fill up Hamilton. I did hear that today.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Dunlap called me and said, "Hey, they've started filling up Hamilton." So I said, "Yeah." I said, "I don't know that that's going to make a huge bit of difference because we're going to get 3 inches of rain overnight. So that's just going to fill all that back up." I just think the fish are used to it this time of year. So,
well, I don't think I don't think any of the fish in the lake are just going to go swimming 3,000 yards away or anything. I think they're going to hold pretty close to where they've been, especially this time of year. A lot of fish are getting ready to move up, here in the next few weeks, which is the reason why I picked up one of the baits that I did. I've been on Ouachita a lot with my brother. He's lived down there for several years. And his staple this time of year, the whole month of March, is just a fluke. And you can take a fluke and not necessarily go into a spawning pocket.
Right.
But just a little, cut in a pocket in the main lake there. If you'll run straight to the back of it, throw a fluke there and be very patient and just let it sink, you'll probably catch a fish. You might only catch one, but I've been in the boat with my brother, and he just runs pocket to pocket to pocket to pocket to pocket, and, he'll get a quick limit that way. Won't catch females that way, but you'll catch some buck bass that have already moved up into the back of those pockets. And, if you'll take that rock crawler and throw it down the middle of that pocket, you may accidentally stumble upon a female doing that.
Right. That's a pretty accurate statement. I mean, I'm assuming right now in Ouachita they're probably in that pre-spawn staging area.
Yeah, and my brother did fish that Trader Bill's tournament. The 4-pounder they caught, which was their bigger fish,
right?
They actually caught it in like 1.5 foot of water in some flooded bushes, and they just pitched in there. Figured they ain't caught any big fish doing anything else. Let's go try shallow. Caught it in some dirty water, and of course the sun was up, so that dirty water was warm. And that's where they caught their bigger fish. So there's going to be some fish shallow. Wouldn't necessarily throw that out of the.
No, I mean, I think you're 100% correct. I think later in the day, if that sun's out, you got those bluff walls. You got a little bit of rock somewhere.
Well, speaking of bluff walls,
there you go.
That's tend to where I would want to go myself, but that just sets up well for me and what I like to do. I like to throw a jig. I'll hand that to you. Black and blue jig this time of year, you can't beat it.
Yep.
Find some of those old river bends where there's some bluff walls that are set up near a spawning cove somewhere. I mean, I know one specifically that as I'm saying this, I can think of.
You just
And,
picture it in your mind.
Yes. And you'll have a lot of fish staging there. They'll just be, held up there, waiting on the water temperature to get a little bit warmer so they can move all the way to the back of that cove. If you're patient and can drag that jig off of a lot of those bluff walls, here's the wall, right? And then you'll have a shelf, and it may come out only 4 feet, but it may be, 8 foot deep. Well, then the next shelf that falls may be 22 foot.
Right.
A lot of the fish you're going to catch are going to be on that first shelf. And when you throw it up there, if you'll just kind of drag it real slow and then drag it off and let it fall, a lot of times after it falls and, kind of gets towards the bottom, if I haven't felt anything pick it up, I'm not patient enough to fish in 22 foot of water. Some people are. They may pick some fish up that I missed doing that, but I'll a lot of times fish that first shelf or so. I actually love this Guggen Bandito bug as a trailer for that. This time of year, it's pretty compact overall. The flappers aren't too crazy. They're not real wide like you would get with a Strike King Rage.
Right.
But they still put off some good vibration, but they're just kind of centered a little bit better for this time of year. So earlier, probably January, February, I wanted something that was even tighter, more of your reactions, innovations type of bait, whereas this is kind of in the middle. So it's not real wide, and it's not real narrow. It's just right there, kind of even. And I feel like that sets up really well for this time of year. That's what I normally will trailer my jigs with, in Arkansas this time of year. So
those Bandito bugs
they're very versatile. I actually put one on Conway the other day when I ran out of my other bait and swam it the same. And
when
caught
you
a
ran out
fish
of your
that
other
way.
bait.
Actually, that's what I caught the 6-pounder on. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
For folks that want to go find some muddy water and fish shallow in some spawning coves, maybe you find one where there's not any cold water running in, or there just doesn't really have a creek in the back of it or something. A 1/2 ounce spinner bait and some chartreuse and white with a red head.
Yep.
That's here in the shop. You can't really go wrong with that in dirty water. Could definitely be a big time player if you stumble upon some fish.
For certain.
And then, there's humps out there in Ouachita and in a lot of areas. Also, this bait plays well on bluff walls, and something that's just a staple on Ouachita year round. My brother keeps one tied on all the time, and that's just a jerk bait.
Just that jerk bait.
And I like that the color for this time of year. It's got some chartreuse back to it. That's that Shimano with the little flash in there. So
it's funny. Speaking of this bait, so there's a shop down in Texas that's got a big bass tank, and they had jerk baits, and they were taking the jerk baits out of the package and they were putting them by the glass where the bass could see them and see if it would get any reaction from them coming up to the thing. The only one that got any traction through the glass was a world minnow.
Interesting.
That was. I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
And they were putting a mega bass up there. They were putting the 6th Sense. They were putting all kinds of them up there. I'm like, all right, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I don't have one out, but if all else fails, you can pick up an Ed rig and go find 5 Kentucky.
Oh my
Kentucky
goodness.
somewhere, right?
I told somebody was asking me. They're new to the area, and they're like, "What's in Ouachita?" And I said, "A lot of angry Kentuckys."
Yeah.
There's a lot of angry Kentuckys in that lake.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if Sean Daly is signed up or not. I think I saw him commenting on some stuff, but he's very strong in Ouachita as well.
Yep.
Kind of have an inkling of where he might go. I think it sets up well for this time of year. So if he signs up, I'd be curious to see where he lands, if he can make it out.
I think we're going to have an extremely well attended tournament. I think there's a lot of guys who I've talked to that said they're fishing way out of their comfort zone right now.
Yeah.
They're just exploring other things because they know it's going to be maybe tough, maybe competitive, so they got to find a little bit extra. But I mean, I'm certainly excited to see a start on Ouachita because, to be honest, I thought it'd be cold. I
Yeah.
thought we would be in cold weather. I thought we would be, typical. The one time we move it away from Greer's for
Yeah.
our opening, it's
Right.
warm, and it's been a warm pattern. I mean, it hasn't really been cold leading up to it, so it's like, okay, well, this
Well,
is
and
going to be an interesting,
that is a good thing to keep in mind. Even if it does get cold, like cold for
Right.
some reason, got to remember just because you're cold doesn't mean the fish are cold.
Right.
Okay. Water temperature of the lake matters more than the air temperature that you're experiencing as the angler. So
It's a good
just because
point.
you're bundled up and you're freezing your tail off, if that water temperature hasn't changed since you pre-fished a ton,
right?
doesn't mean that your pattern changed. Doesn't mean that your fish moved. Doesn't mean that they ran off. To me, as an angler, for what it's worth, I
Right.
focus on the water temperature way more than I do the air temperature.
You heard him, guys. You heard him. I think that's a very valid point, because especially on a Big O, it's such a big lake, and it's such a deep lake that it takes a lot to change the water temperature. So,
And I think that's also something to keep in mind, this time of year, just as you kind of build your memory bank for fishing, just keep that in mind. Like, we're going to have more events this time of year in the future.
right,
You may decide to travel out of state for an event in the future this time of year. Try to keep in mind, main lake stuff, the water temperature may be colder,
Right.
okay, but it's going to be more consistent.
right,
It's not going to fluctuate, and it's not going to change as much. Okay, those
Right.
other areas that are probably going to have more fish pulled up ready to spawn, those are going to be the areas where the water temperature is going to get impacted quicker, faster. It's usually shallower water.
Right.
So I usually will try to have a plan A and a plan B. And one of them will usually be shallow water, and one of them will still be somewhat shallow water. It's just connected to the main lake, so the water temperature
Right.
doesn't change that much.
right. 100%. I agree with that.
So that way, if we do get hit, with some pretty, quick cold weather or something, it gives me an opportunity to still feel like, I have something to go to.
For sure. For sure. Well, Ty Vaughn is watching. He said, "Hey guys."
What's up, man?
So hopefully, Ty, you're going to be, you're recovered and ready to try this out.
Yeah, and shout out to Keith that duck hunts with us. He fell off ladder, so he won't make it.
Yep.
He's under the gun for a bit, so hopefully he can be back out, by mid-April or so.
Yeah.
Or whatnot. I know he was looking forward to it. I think Chris Wright's going to go out and fish it. And again, he's fishing out of his comfort zone. Doesn't know anything about Ouachita. I know a guy that my brother works with that also used to fish with him is gonna sign up and fish. Be his first kayak tournament.
All right.
Eric Couch, I think is his last name. He can fish. Okay. Now, this is first kayak tournament, so I'm sure he's going to have the whole, man, I have one on and it flopped off the board story or something like that. But, if he gets it figured out pretty quick,
For certain.
I have a feeling that, don't be surprised if you see this guy's name on the leaderboard and be like, who's this?
Yep.
The guy, he's coming out of a big boat, okay? He can fish, and, I'd be interested to see what he does. I'm not sure if James Davis was going to sign up or not. I think he was thinking about it. He spent some time on Ouachita with his father-in-law over the last couple of years. So he may have a couple of honey holes to run to himself.
Steve Dunlap wants to ask, where do I fish? In the water.
In the water.
In the water. That's where we fish. Yeah. I've heard a lot of things, and I'm just kind of turning off what I've heard.
Yeah.
But sound advice.
Yeah.
If it were me, I mean, I would definitely be looking at bluff walls, but I'd definitely be looking at back of those pockets, some of those deeper cuts that they get deep, but they've got some shallow areas to them. I just think those are always good on Ouachita, and you never know. You get a laydown that might. The top of it's out of the water, but the bottom of that laydown may be maybe 15 feet down.
You know who cashed some checks doing that?
Yep.
Clint Reither.
Yep. So
yeah, that was his. He would run. Of course, this was summertime tournaments, but he'd run top water, all the way down the bank till he came to a lay down. And then he'd
Yep.
flip a jig, maybe catch fish that way. Then he'd just run top water to the next lay down.
Yep.
But he'd stop at each one. And he had a lot of success on that lake doing that.
He did. So, I mean, don't underestimate those laydowns.
Yeah.
I've pulled some good fish out of those. Mark Cawthorn says hello.
Hey.
Tyvon, his arm is good, not 100%, but it's good. So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's good to hear that you're going to be back, man. That's good to hear. I think it's going to be like I said, I think it's going to be a great tournament. I'm excited to see the season kick off. It's always interesting to see how this first tournament goes to kind of set the.
And there's a lot to fish for this year.
There is a lot to fish for this year.
Old Town steps up, takes their focus off sponsoring national events.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like they can really make a bigger impact going back to the grassroots organizations and,
I agree.
Putting some sponsorship there. And how cool is it that not only Northwest Arkansas, but Central, get acknowledged in this.
Mm-hmm.
And, our anglers are going to benefit from that. And they have a lot to fish for.
They do. And, you're obviously on the Old Town
Mm-hmm.
team. Was there any chatter about this beforehand, or did they just drop this guy on you? Or, I mean,
we kind of knew they were pulling away from a big name sponsorship, and there wasn't anything that caused that. There was no riff or no issue there.
Right.
Everything was still on the up and up. I think Old Town's, the reason why they've been so successful for so long is they're always reevaluating things.
Right.
They're never satisfied. They're never complacent. And, I think they just kind of wanted to know where they could make the most impact. And I think the feedback from a lot of the pro staff, from a lot of, folks in the industry was, the folks that are buying your boats for the most part are on these grassroots trails,
Mm-hmm.
as far as your fishing kayaks go.
Yep.
And I think they got this one pretty right.
I told Ryan Lilly props, man, because I think you touch a lot more people going to the grassroots, going to some of these bigger. Now, I realize these are bigger grassroots organizations they're going with, but, as I tell people that come in the shop, this is where you kind of got to reward the manufacturer for good behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, got to support them for doing it because that's why they're doing it. So
pretty cool deal, and looking forward to see, kind of what happens with all that and who ends up walking out with a
120 PDL.
120 PDL. Is there some money as well?
There's some money.
Okay.
The board's still deciding kind of how that's going to get played out, but I can tell you with memberships being where they're at now, we've got almost 40 members now with, the Old Town money coming in, sponsorship money that we've had coming in. It's going to set up for a good year for some of the end of year prizes.
Hey, here's a piece of advice to whoever's going to win, whatever they're going to win. Keep your receipts for everything that you purchase.
Exactly.
Fishing poles, fishing line, a new graph, battery. You buy some shoes, those are fishing shoes, people. Okay? you may need a tax write-off or a few. Keep a spreadsheet of stuff you spend throughout the course of the year, just in case you do end up. I don't know how the board decides to split the money up or what y'all do with it, but just in case you end up,
Well, we'll say this: 100%. All the proceeds go back to the anglers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, but I will say I'm going to take this opportunity. Lamey Chiropractic is back for this particular event, and Adam was extremely happy to sponsor the starting event again. He got a lot of good feedback off of sponsoring it last year, and so I would encourage all of you guys, if you're in the Central Arkansas area and you're looking for a chiropractor, give Adam and the crew over at Lamey Chiropractic a chance. I know Adam is working on doing some exercises that can help guys that are feeling a little punk after a day on the water throwing, and you get that elbow pain, you get that back pain from sitting all day, and So give those guys a call. Those guys got some. They've definitely got some cool stuff going on. Stephen Dunlap says he thinks the lake is setting up nicely. Tyvon says feels like a crapshoot with this weather. This is the thing is we're not really having anything outside of the norm for weather. It rains during the spring. It might be a little bit unseasonably warm, but I just think that sets up for better conditions. I'm not sure where our moon phase is at, but I think we're getting close to
We're getting close to a full moon.
Yeah, so it's setting up good.
I tell you, the weather, in my opinion, it's just me. Take it from, 100 people will say I'm wrong, and that's fine. I think the weather plays more of a factor in people's head than it actually does to fishing.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Those fish still going to eat at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you put a lure in front of their face, you can probably get them to bite. Which one it is, now that's sometimes the secret, but, you'll see people, especially now that we have live active target, you'll see people go out there and catch fish in some of the worst conditions.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to hurt y'all too much. You should still be able to go out there and do it. You just got to change your mind frame a little bit and say, hey, I'm going to go catch them. Doesn't matter what it does.
I agree. Well, I mean, you've got a win on Lake Fork. You've got a big blue bass trophy that from people that had already maybe checked out mentally.
Yeah, and that's again, that was just a water temperature thing. Water temperature was the same that it was, but people let the air temperature kind of freak them out, which I think was somewhat understable.
Yeah, it did
ice.
It did ice,
but still, water temperature was pretty much the same. So as long as we get a lot of cold rain, I feel like we'll be fine. And this rain today hasn't been that cold.
Right.
It's been a little chilly, but I think y'all will be fine. I think this is going to be a good event for everybody.
Tyvon said that I never claimed to have a strong mental game. I'm telling you guys, I know Garrett's preached it a lot when we've been on here, and it's just it.
Chris Wright will tell y'all, I don't like the cold.
Yep.
Like, I'll be bundled up. Like, I'll have 6 layers on and be out there fishing.
Right.
So I don't like it. It's just, I'll just put on enough clothes where I don't feel
it. I don't know that. I haven't checked the full weather yet. What's the weather? Let me look here real quick.
I hadn't looked. I've looked at Gunnersville, but not Ouachita.
Yeah. So let's look at. So it looks like probably, Saturday's going to be full sun, no clouds, and a low of 40, a high of 62. That's
up to 62.
Yeah.
That should be a.
And with full,
it should be good.
With full sun, that's gonna be good.
Yeah, I would look for some rocks.
Definitely,
some rocks that heat up.
Oh yeah,
could be good for sure. So
bluff walls and oh gosh, what'd I do? I did something. Oh, see, this is what happens when I drop something on something. So we're all back. We're all good.
Right.
We're all good. But I think a 40 degree low and a 62 degree high.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
That's
especially on a lake that big, you'll be
fine.
Now what sets up for the next event? I'm just curious. I don't know off the top of my head. Where do y'all go next?
We go to Conway.
And what's
April 1st?
Okay, I will get the fish that one. That'll be. Hey, listen, I'm telling you right now, there'll be a lot of fish already spawned out.
Really?
Yes.
Outstanding.
Yes. Well, I don't know that's outstanding. There'll be a lot of fish that are done spawning by April 1st.
Yeah.
There's areas on that lake right now where I've seen 65 degree water.
Man, that's good.
So
that is good.
We caught a lot of fish out there Sunday, and some of them were in the dirt. So there's no doubt there's fish up there spawning right now. Just is what it is. When you got a shallow body of water that's that shallow, it just warms up so quick. I think the only thing that'll really kind of push some of those fish off is that they are letting a lot of water out right now.
Yeah.
There's not a consistent water level on Conway right now. So.
Yeah, that's a. I think that's just probably game and fish worried about flooding.
Floods, yeah.
Yeah. So.
But I do think there'll be a lot of fish that are post spawn by April,
That's interesting.
which should make for a really good frog bite.
It should.
Because a lot of those females will stay up and guard that fry for a bit, before moving into their summer pattern. So frog fishing could be a thing come April.
Frog fishing. It's almost that time.
Yep.
Almost that time. Anything else? I don't think anybody watching have any questions or comments, or think we've hit everything. Like I said, just excited to get the tournament season going. I mean, I know for you, tournament season really never ended.
No, just kept rolling. Just kept rolling throughout the year. So ready to get going myself this week. Hate that I'm missing Ouachita, but excited to go to Guntersville.
Yeah, so Guntersville. So you're back to back weeks. Guntersville,
Caddo, and then during the week, that third week, I'll be at Lake Chickamauga.
That's for the Bassmaster Classic.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's a busy time. March is going to be busy.
March is going to be real busy. So
all right.
But the summer's a lot lighter for me this year. So didn't have as many events going on there.
Yeah, that's with the national scene getting so spread out. It's like, guys, come on.
Yeah, I do hate that there's so much east of the Mississippi River this year. I mean, there's just not a lot, over this way. I mean, you got Rayburn and Caddo, but may try to slide into that KBF up on Grand.
That might be
just
good.
Because I'm familiar with it at this point. So.
Yep.
But looking forward to jumping in some locals once it kind of settles a little bit. But that April 1st one's going to be a good one.
Yeah, with that collaboration with AAKS is going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool, man. Well, don't have anything else in the chat, so we'll call it there.
Yeah, I'll be checking in Saturday night to see what happened. So.
Well, good luck to you on Guntersville, and
yeah,
we'll talk to you soon. I know you're heading out tomorrow, right?
Yep, tomorrow night.
All right. Well, guys, that's it. And captain's meeting Friday evening, and this video will be posted up as well. Talk to you guys soon.
Good luck.